Good evening to you, William. So Bannon essentially accused of defrauding this non-profit. Tell us more about the arrest and the charges that he and 3 others are facing.
What we're understanding is that Steve Bannon was arrested while on a boat off the coast of Connecticut here in the northeast of the United States. And he's set to be arraigned at this courthouse you can see behind me in lower Manhattan here in New York City. Now, what Steve Bannon and 3 others are facing are 2 charges each. One is a count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud. The other is conspiracy to commit money laundering. Now, each of those charges carries with it a maximum of 20 years behind bars. So incredibly serious allegations being presented to these 4 individuals, including Steve Bannon. Now, we've heard from Audrey Strauss, who's the acting Southern District Attorney here in the Southern District in New York, and she alleges that these 4 individuals defrauded hundreds of thousands of donors under the full pretense of wall construction. Now, it's estimated that the We Build the Wall campaign, which was set up in around December 2018, has compiled more than $25 million worth of donations. It's alleged that Steve Bannon received around $1 million to a non-profit under his name, to which it's alleged that hundreds of thousands of dollars of that money went towards his personal expenses. So incredibly serious charges being presented, but of course we're still very much waiting for a plea to come from Steve Bannon and those 3 other individuals.
Steve Bannon, once so very close to Donald Trump, of course now a vocal critic. Has there been any response from the White House to Steve Bannon's arrest?
Absolutely. President Trump has been quizzed on this, and the president stated that, and I quote, he says, "It's sad, it's very sad." Now, he very much put some distance between his former chief strategist, Steve Bannon, and himself, saying that he hadn't dealt with him in a long while. He also said that really from the offset he wasn't a fan of this project, this fundraising campaign for the wall, saying that that should very much be left to government. He described it as being a form of showboating. So the president very strong in his messaging that he had really no involvement with this Build the Wall crowdfunding project, and that he hasn't had any recent ties with Steve Bannon.
Just update us on, it was such a big campaign promise for Trump, to build the wall, the border wall between Mexico and the USA. Where are we at with that wall?
Absolutely. Of course, let's not forget that if we cast our minds back to the last election cycle, building the wall and making Mexico pay for it was really the signature promise for President Trump. And just this week, he's been in the town of Yuma on the southern border in the state of Arizona, where he was looking at the progress being made on the wall construction. He says, and his team say, that by the end of this week, 300 miles of wall will have been constructed. Of course, he has promised to build in the region of 738 miles along the southern border. The Trump administration has already put aside $15 billion of that funding, but critics have been keen to point out that some estimate there are only around 5 miles of that border wall is in fact new, and the rest of it has just been refurbishing existing walls or perhaps only adding to it. But the president has said that illegal immigration is down into the United States. The amount of drugs that have been caught on the southern border has risen. So he says that his strategy of building this wall is effective.
Very quickly, Steve Bannon arrested and to be charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and money laundering. He's not the first person or Trump employee or person close to Trump to be arrested and even jailed. In fact, he's adding to quite a long list. I'm thinking Paul Manafort, Michael Cohen, and there are others.
Absolutely. Among the others, Roger Stone, a political operative that, of course, President Trump has recently commuted his prison sentence. You mentioned Paul Manafort. This comes in a week where a Republican-led Senate committee really showed that they had evidence that Paul Manafort and WikiLeaks were used by Russia to help the Trump administration get into office. The president has once again reiterated this week, though, that it's a hoax. And just other names to mention, Michael Cohen, for example, President Trump's former lawyer, of course, facing time behind bars as well. So draining the swamp, which President Trump promised in 2016, is becoming under real scrutiny.
Thank you very much. William Denzler joining us from New York, talking to us about the rest today of Steve Bannon.